Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Three Deep South. This is a college football podcast brought to you from the great state of Arkansas. That's Justin. I'm Mason. Today we're going to kind of talk about the recent developments in NIL and more importantly, the revenue sharing and how it's going to affect college football going forward. This has been something that's been pending for a long time. We've been hearing about it for a couple of years now, and they finally settled on it this week. It's not going to be what you think it is, where $20.5 million or how much ever you thought it was going to be. It's only going to be $20.5 million, and it's not just for football. It's for athletic departments as a whole. So we're going to kind of get into how that's going to affect not just football, but specifically how it's going to affect football. Kind of what I was reading and kind of what I was hearing was that it's not going to be in a sense like you can't have NIL, but it's going to restrict NIL a lot more. Instead of money going to these collectives that Kalen DeBoer, Dabo Sweeney, Ryan Day can just pull from and pay players with, it's going to be more of a thing of you have to prove what you're spending this money on in a business sense. So kind of how NIL was supposed to be, how I thought it was going to be from the get-go. And I think it's a good move for college football, just to be honest with you. I think it's something that we've been needing some sort of structure. Now, I don't think that this is the end-all be-all. I don't think this fixes what I think is a problem that grows every year. But I do think it's something that is a step in the right direction. Justin, kind of where's your head going on this?
Honestly, man, I think NIL came on really fast and there was no building period on it. You know what I mean? Like it went from no NIL, Reggie Bush lost his Heisman for making $200. Chase Young was getting suspended from games for using his own money to buy his parents tickets to go to bowl games. It was just so you couldn't spend anything without the NCAA coming and looking at and investigating on what you're spending money on, what the school is spending money on. Till now, it's hey, it's like GTA and college football. You want it, I'll spend it. Let's go make something happen. And I just think, I think it's great for college football to have NIL. Don't get me wrong. I think that they deserve to be paid. Football is the highest revenue grossing sport. What I mean by that is they bring in the most amount of money through any college, athletics, anything. Girls basketball, guys baseball, all those sports. Football is the biggest revenue maker in college football, in football and college in general. So they didn't really they should have played it like a slow game. But now you have the problem of first of all these collectives should not be able to pay recruits. That's the biggest problem that I see with it is they're going to high school kids and saying, if you come to our school, then we'll pay you this amount of money. Well, that's not how it was originally intended to be. It was originally intended to be for a Jeremiah Smith or a Ryan Williams or somebody like that. Hey, you got here, you were really good. Well, then you had a crazy freshman year, so let's give you some more money. Or you're at Ohio State or you're at Alabama, well, now Nike wants to sign you. Or you're at, a school to where one of their biggest boosters is, owns Walmart or, some kind of crazy somebody that has money just to kind of throw away, I guess you could say. But you don't start paying them until after they're there. But now it's you have the Miamis and the Florida States, and I mean, we just seen it with Michigan where Dave Portnoy and I don't even know who it was. It's some multi-billionaire just paid Bryce Underwood $3 million to come there. And Dave Portnoy was open with it. He posted on Barstool before, that even happened of, hey, if there's any quarterback that wants to leave their school and come to Michigan, I can probably get you $2 to $3 million. Now, they didn't land a transfer quarterback, but they went and got out the number one prospect in the 20.
Number one dual threat quarterback in the high school, yeah.
And here's my thing, Mason. It's not like he can even back it up and be like, oh, well, I went there to get developed and, my draft stock is going to be crazy. When's the last time a quarterback got drafted from Michigan that had the numbers to prove it? It wasn't like oh yeah, J.J. McCarthy might be pretty decent.
Well, and I think to a certain extent, like NIL, kind of like you were saying, the way it was supposed to be was you were going to be able to market yourself. And I'll give you an example of someone I know specifically. I don't know them personally, but this is an example I know. Devo Davis did a radio show for the Buzz here in Arkansas. It's Central Arkansas's ESPN affiliate. And he would do a radio appearance every week. Now, I'm sure he got paid for that. That's what it was supposed to be more of. It wasn't supposed to be Georgia pays these guys to stay committed, and Ole Miss and whoever pay transfer portal guys to leave their school, and all of that was never the intention, I don't think. But because the NCAA has never had a backbone, and they've never been able to actually do anything and stand on it and be consistent, or they haven't been able to not investigate for 4 years before finally coming to a conclusion on something, this got out of hand because they lost a lawsuit, and after that, it's just all hell broke loose, and it has helped some programs like Arkansas, like Ole Miss, like probably Illinois probably benefited from it. Texas Tech, obviously. And it has helped those teams in a sense of they can poach players from Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia that weren't going to play for the first couple of years of their college careers. But for the most part, it hasn't changed in a sense of like, who out of the norm has been in the national champion? It's been the same big dogs, and everyone thought it was going to be this thing of, well, Arkansas's got Walmart backing them, so now Arkansas is going to be a big player. That's not what it's been at all. It's just been you've seen more average football across the board. You haven't seen these great juggernauts come out of NIL because of the money they're able to spend, and I think to an extent a salary cap that this is supposed to be will help kind of divvy that out. I think it'll keep it being, instead of it being, oh, well, here at Alabama, we can give you $1 million to play quarterback. It'll be, well, now Kalen DeBoer's kind of got to divert resources with a limited amount of resources he's going to have. So more players are going to be more spread out like they have been, but also it's going to be more about development again, and more about high school recruiting, not just going where UCLA is going to pay Madden, Amalamalea or whatever, $700,000 to go ride the pond under his brother. It's not going to be a situation like that anymore. And I'm excited for that, honestly. I am.
Yeah,
I'm really
and
excited.
I think what it's going to help, like, how do I want to say this? Like, who is your blue bloods in college basketball? You got Duke, North Carolina, Kentucky, Kansas. Like, those are your blue bloods because that's tradition. That's how
Right.
college football is too. Who are your blue bloods? You have Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia,
Texas.
Texas, like, those type of schools. Well, that's always going to be there. Now you're occasionally going to have schools like a Washington that make the push and, get up in there. Michigan, they're a traditional blue blood, but I don't know if they are that anymore. I mean, we've been 0-4 against them. So maybe they're figuring something out. I wouldn't consider them a modern day blue blood, personally. That's just
No, it's 2020. They haven't done anything.
yeah. So those are always going to be there. I think what NIL has done has made your Nebraskas, your Iowas, your not so much Florida because they were good for a while. Your Florida States, your
Ole Miss,
Ole Miss is a big one. They want to act like they never spend money. Lane Kiffin Lane Kiffin will hide behind a wall and throw rocks at people for the exact same thing he's doing.
Yeah.
But
Without a doubt, I agree.
he acts like they don't spend money. They spent $8 million last year. Now, I know that's not anywhere close to like Texas, but don't act like everybody just comes and steals your players. Oh, poor, pitiful Lane Kiffin. Anyways, what I'm getting to is like, I feel like we are occasionally going to have years where there are going to be those schools that make big pushes. Like oh, that's crazy. Ole Miss is in the national championship game. Or, a Penn State or an Oregon or those schools are going to make pushes, but then they're going to kind of, like we talked about last episode, they're going to come back to reality. And your blue bloods are going to have the years where it's like, oh my gosh, did you see Alabama went 9-3, or Georgia went 10-2, or Ohio State went, 10-2, or whatever they go. Like, I think that's what it's going to be. You're still going to have the blue bloods, but you're also going to have that middle tier of college football is a lot more dispersed, instead of saying, oh, well, here's the SEC conference, 11-0, 10-1, 10-1, 10-1, 3-4. Whatever their schedule is. Like, it seemed like there was a big gap in college football there for a long time, where you had the top tier teams and then you had the lower tier teams. There weren't really any too many in the middle, I would say.
Well, and a big thing is, if you think this is going to keep cheating from happening, because essentially that's what NIL was. It was sanctioned, not even sanctioned. It was cheating, but it was legal. So, I mean, it wasn't. I guess it wasn't cheating. Everyone was doing it. But if you think that's going to stop, you're probably wrong. And I hate to break your heart. People are still going to be spending money in illegal ways, but this gives the NCAA or the College Football Committee or whoever, this gives people the ability to punish teams for cheating, instead of it being like a he said, she said. Well, Michigan apparently, you know what I mean? You'll be able to actually be able to back that and do something about it. And it'll also give you opportunities to punish schools in a sense of like, they might be able to say, you can't spend this amount of money now this year, or kind of how it was with scholarships in the past. They're going to be like, well, you only have $10 million as a school now, which might keep people in check if it's not just going to hurt your football program, if it's going to hurt basketball or women's water polo.
And I think, from what I understand, kind of like what we were talking a little bit earlier, so it's going to be roughly like a base pool of 22% of average annual revenue. Like I said, me and Mason kind of talked about it at the beginning of the show. Like, none of this is wrote in stone. Like, they haven't came out and 1000% said it. It's just kind of what they're talking about. And we feel like it's good information to have kind of on the back of your mind. So, 2 weeks before season, you're not like, holy crap, I didn't know they were changing anything like that. Well, it's going to be somewhere around the ballpark of like $20.5 million. Now, when we say that, that's the money. So you used to have collectives. Ohio State had like 3 different collectives, and what it would be, they would get money from me and Mason, and if the collective, wanted a player, or the big people that were spending a bunch of money wanted certain players, obviously they would talk to a coach, but they would be like, hey, can we offer Will Howard $1 million? That's what he needs to come here. Well, they can. That's how they were doing it. Or they would say, oh, well, Will Howard said he's not coming here for anything less than $4 million, so can we give him that? Well, now what that's going to be is all these collectives, or this is how Ohio State's doing it from my understanding, all these collectives are going to be one thing, and it's going to be operating under the school body. So, like, they can't, and the way it's going to be allocated is like 75% goes to like football, 20% goes to men's basketball, and then 5% goes to women's basketball. The reason it goes to women's basketball is because women's basketball is the 3rd most revenue sport in college. Now, that might just be at Ohio State, don't get me wrong.
Yeah. It definitely is at Ohio State, because men's baseball is huge in the South.
Yeah, exactly. So that's just for Ohio State. I don't really know how any other school's doing it, but that's how they plan to do it. Now, that doesn't keep Jeremiah Smith from going out and signing a $3 million Nike deal. Or that doesn't keep Jeremiah Smith to going and buying 15 Lazy Boys, and that's his NIL. You know what I mean? But what it keeps it from doing are these schools like Colorado paying Shedeur Sanders $5 million to come there. Where it's like, it's not, it's just, it ends up creating a cycle to where it's never good, because it's always like and I feel like that's a direct correlation with all the stuff that's going on in the transfer portal too. Like, if this school says they're going to pay Nico $1 million, well, then most of the time, most schools are going to pay Nico $1 million. So it's like, instead of Arkansas saying they'll pay him $1 million, and then, or sorry, Tennessee saying they'll pay him $2 million, he's not going to go to UCLA and get $4 million like he was wanting. It's going to be kind of around the same thing. It's not going to have this drastic, like, where you have Miami paying an offensive guard $4 million right out of high school.
Well, and how it affects big football is probably a lot more minimal than how it's going to affect your G5 schools. I mean, do you think the University of Buffalo or Northern Illinois or South Florida or Southern Mississippi, I mean, do you think they have $20.5 million of revenue just to throw away? I would say no. I mean, not like Arkansas or Ohio State or whoever does. So I think you're going to see some cuts, and that's unfortunate. A lot of these teams might have like a horse team or whatever, or a fishing
Ohio
team or
State,
whatever.
and I mean, you're right. I don't know if Ohio State would feel it, but like Stanford has the most college athletics out of any school. Like, you can't sit here and tell me like Stanford's going to be able to pay for the, women's, backwards rowing chess team, or whatever kind of crazy athletics they have. Like, they're not going to be able to pay for that. And that, I think, like, that's where I kind of don't agree with it, because it's like, do I think some sports are stupid and they shouldn't be paid for? Yes, but at the same time, like, if that's like, imagine us living in another country and this whole thing was doing the same, like, everything exactly what we're talking about is happening, but it's happening with soccer. And me and you grew up our whole lives playing American football. We go over to another country and nobody ever comes and watches us, and they just tell us in our sophomore, junior year, like, hey, there's not going to be a football team here anymore. It's like, what? Like, I came here for this specific sport, and now you're telling me I can't do it anymore. Like, I mean, I understand why, but it also kind of kills the whole thing of, like, opportunity, I guess you could say.
Yeah, and I don't think it's necessarily gonna affect certain schools. It probably will affect Stanford. I don't imagine Stanford has the same amount of revenue as a lot of these other schools. But that's just something to think about. Like, probably some Olympic sports that you might not, that no one watches on like live in person. No one cares to go buy a ticket for, but like stuff that we don't think about might get cut. Might become a club sport instead of a scholarship official team sport. So I mean, there's a lot of different ways that a decision like this affects college athletics in general. Um, it's not going to affect the way we watch football. It's not going to affect any of that. It's probably going to make ticket prices higher. Tennessee, I remember seeing this last year, already said they were going to raise tickets to account for the revenue sharing. So it is going to affect it in that way. Tickets were already kind of getting outrageous. It's not going to get any better on that end. It's just it's just the way it is now. Unfortunately, they opened up this Pandora's box of NIL and transfer portal, and it almost feels like they're grasping it. The NCAA is what I'm talking about. It feels like the NCAA is grasping for any little thing they can to get control again. I don't know how deep everyone follows just college football news, but Greg Sankey was talking about how he was asked, why are we still in the NCAA? And I'm sure that that's a scary thing for the NCAA to hear. So they're probably going to try to move along with a lot of these things and rule changes, because the last thing the NCAA wants to do is lose any football. They don't want to lose any football.
Yeah, and it's one of those weird things too, where it's like they kind of like what I was saying earlier. They opened it up just like you were talking about, with no rules, so much gray area. Certain schools were kind of dabbling in it before other schools. I know Ohio State took forever to get started in NIL. Like, took forever, like almost a year. Certain schools were dabbling in it more than others. Cough, cough, the SEC, because they've been doing it for so long. Now it's just legal. Anyways, like, there were schools that were just diving into it full blown, and then there were schools that were kind of dipping their toe in. Well, now we're getting to a point to where, like, it's almost like completely got out of hand. Like, it's every week you're hearing about this NIL. This person signed a jet deal where they get to take a private jet wherever they want to. I think Jackson Dart was one of the first ones that did it. Him and maybe Quinn Ewers. But like, they signed jet deals as a 21-year-old college athlete. That's not including money. And there's a lot of things that are kind of smoke being blown too. Like, oh, we're paying this freshman offensive tackle $2 million to come here. But then it turns out he never got paid that, which is going to cause him to get put in the transfer portal. And I just think it's this whole big wheel of like, it's really screwing up college football, if you want me to be 1,000% honest. Not the aspect of NIL and not the aspect of the transfer portal. It's when you put them together with no rules, it's completely screwing over college football and how we know it. Like, I don't care if people transfer, but for, what was it? It was last year, Alabama had that tackle. He came in and he played a year, and then in the winter, he transferred to Iowa, spent spring there, and then transferred back to Alabama. It's like, you shouldn't be able to do that, but that's a direct correlation with money, and it's making it to where, like, he even got on camera on a podcast and said that Iowa was in contact with him the whole time he was playing at Alabama. You're not supposed to be able to do that at all.
And it hurts the sport in a sense of like last year with UNLV. Their starting quarterback led them to, like, they were undefeated up to a certain point. I think it was like week 3 or week 4. And then he's like, well, I'm not getting paid what they said I would get paid. Da 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 da. Now, if we have, this is where the rules need to advance, is you shouldn't be able to say you're going to pay somebody this, sign a contract, and then not pay them. That's breach of contract. That's illegal. It should be.
Yeah.
So it protects the players if you advance the rules with this salary cap, and actually making it a business expense, not just the school giving, the school collective, whatever. So it protects the players, but it also protects the schools in a sense like Iowa. I mean, you brought a guy in, he went through spring, he totally BS'd you, and then left. We should close that second transfer window. I don't understand how we can have a transfer window open during the college football playoff and another one right after spring football. That needs to be fixed too. We need to have one transfer portal window, and we also need to have more, I guess, contractual money, not just some blowhard saying, well, if you come to Georgia Tech, we'll give you $500,000 and this amount of payments, and then 10 weeks into the season, he's like, well, you still owe me $400,000 of that $500,000.
Well, a lot of it too is because a lot of these kids are naive. I mean, imagine if somebody offered you $3 million to go to school for 4 years when you were 18 years old. Like, you wouldn't know how to act. You would just be, okay, yeah. Like, a lot of things aren't ever put on paper. So, like, it's like these business people are taking advantage of young kids and getting them to do what they want them to do without having any kind of repercussions, unless the kid is, smart enough or has the right mentors around him to get him to get that contract. Here's my question to you, Mason, and maybe this is just a once in scenario type thing and like nobody else will do this. The Bengals took that Stewart from Texas A&M, like 17th overall in the draft. He didn't do anything. He was a good player, but he didn't have any production. He was one of the first kids that came into that crazy Texas A&M class back in, what was that, 2021, 2022, something like that. And he's refusing to sign his contract. Do you think that coming into college and having that type of push, when you can kind of push and tell them what you want, and they'll just pay you, and there's no real, there's no backlash on it, do you think that's eventually going to grow to a point to where it does start affecting these draft picks that are getting drafted, but they don't like the contract that they're getting given, and now they're sitting out?
Well, and on that specifically, now I'm going to talk about it broader after this, but specifically with him, the Bengals introduced a injury clause to where he would have way less guaranteed money if he got hurt. So I understand him not signing that contract, but
Yeah.
I was hearing stuff about the combine, how they were looking at players that didn't transfer after a certain point or didn't transfer multiple times. So I do think that with the transfer portal and with like Nico, that is going to turn some heads away from him, and they might not realize it right now. Whenever they're just thinking of, well, let's just get a bag right now. Let's just get whatever we can right now. We'll worry about the NFL when he gets here. It is going to turn some heads away. It is going to bring up draft questions. And it's just going to be another element of for NFL franchises to think about whenever they already critique these players to an extent that me and you could probably never imagine going through that amount of like critiquing, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's a fair point, and that's a great thing to bring up. Is like this is going to affect players' futures beyond the NCAA and college football.
Yeah, it's one of those things, and I just don't understand. And maybe it'll change because if you really do think about it, like when did NIL start? Like 2020, like 2022 was when it really started. Like it started in 2021, but like nobody really got on board and started really doing it until like 2022, 2023. So like this is all fresh, but like you would think that people would understand that like these little $1 and $2 million deals that they're talking about signing is nowhere close to what they're going to get paid just in their rookie deal if they get drafted in the first round. So, like, would you rather make more money or go to somewhere where you're going to get developed?
Right, and if you're a player that thinks you're going to the NFL, then I mean, you probably would be more willing to stay at a place that you got developed. I think the fear with a lot of these guys is they don't necessarily believe in that future. I don't know why I got like Nico for. I mean, I know we talked about Nico a lot on this podcast, but that's kind of been he's kind of the trendsetter in this
Well, it's
whole.
recent too. Like it
Well,
just happened.
and I can't think of very many players. Caleb Downs is kind of an example, but it's a bad one because his coach retired.
Yeah.
But Nico's really the first guy that there wasn't a crazy surrounding thing that happened. He just was reportedly unhappy one day and reportedly wanted more money and reportedly all this stuff came out. And it was like, then he was at UCLA and then his brother left too. So, like,
Yeah, I guess the closest thing that you can compare it to, and the Ole Miss fans, if there's any in the chat, will love this one. But like, I guess you can compare it to Quinshon.
yeah, well, Quinshon's a great example too, really, but
I mean, if you really,
that's also different to me because Quinshon, whether Ole Miss fans want to admit it or not, that's not a lateral move or that's not a downgrade as far as programs.
God no.
But
no,
like,
there's no
like
way.
you know what I'm saying? Like historically, even maybe I mean right now it's a lot closer than it's probably ever been as far as just resources and who the coach is and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it was an upgrade for Quinshon.
Especially in that year.
Yeah, Nico was a complete downgrade. Nico went from Tennessee and Josh Heupel's offense. Tennessee has unlimited resources, and probably every SEC and Big Ten school has the best facilities. They're all on par with each other. UCLA is not on that par. UCLA doesn't have those facilities. UCLA doesn't have the fan support. UCLA doesn't have the coach. UCLA just fired their coach like 2 years ago. Like Chip Kelly was just gone. Like he just left.
Yeah, he was. Well, yeah, it's not even been 2 years. It's been like a year and some change because he was only Ohio State's offensive coordinator for 1 year.
Yeah, so like he went from an established place with a lot of money and a lot of resources, and he went to UCLA for what we assume is more money. But I don't know the details of it. It's not public. You know, you hear reports. You don't know it for sure, but yeah, it was for more money.
What's really gonna hurt is, and I don't want to wish anything bad on the kid. Like when I say this, it's gonna sound really disheartening and like I don't care. Like I don't really care for Nico either way. I think he's a crazy athlete and I think he's a good player, but I think he's got a lot of maturing to do. If he ends up going off and being crazy, I think it could hurt the whole aspect of college football because more people are going to want to do that. if he goes there and he kind of craps the bed and ends up getting drafted in like the 6th or 7th round, kids are going to be like, oh no, like, yeah, I might make more money over here, but I really need to pay attention to the system that I go to. That's
On
like
the
Ohio
inverse,
State.
or on the reverse of that, what if Joey Aguilar is like Heisman? What if Joey Aguilar is in New York at the end of the year at the Heisman ceremony? That's a crazy what if, but what if?
Yeah. That's it. That's kind of the same thing. Like, kids are going to understand, like, okay, I need to go to the right system. Like, I don't need to just go chase a bag. Like, I'm going to get paid regardless. You can't sit here and tell me that there's a kid in the Power Four conferences that is a starter that isn't making some sort of NIL money if their name's known. Now, if you're the starting tight end for like a Kansas, and like you're not very like you're a starter, but you're not like some Kyle Pitts or somebody like that, like known. No, you're not going to be making that much money. But like if you're a well-known player in the big four conferences, like you're going to get paid something. So it's like, how much money is it taking you to transfer to a place to where like you're not getting the same level of coaching? Like if you want to go be a quarterback, go to Ohio State or go to Texas or go to USC or somewhere like that. If you want to go to be a linebacker, don't go to those same schools. Don't go to Ohio State to be a top tier linebacker because we haven't produced any in so long. So it's like, choose the school that you need to go to based on the coaches that are there and that can make you a better athlete. Because last time I checked, there's a level of football that's above college that you want to talk about making stupid amount of money. Like, go there.
Yeah. And I think it's just important that if we do progress with the NIL and we do progress with revenue sharing and we do progress with the transfer portal, we could get to a standard that everyone can look at and be like, that was the right move. And it could start with this revenue sharing thing. But more importantly, if we keep going down the path of lawlessness and
Yeah.
no rules and just a wild west, we're never going to get to a point where anybody is ever satisfied. And I think that something like this does not help the SEC. It does not help the Big Ten, but something like this does help college football. Something like this is important for the just survivability of college football because I know no one really wants to admit this or even think about this, but with a train like this, a runaway train has to come to a stop. And I'm not saying college football would ever not exist, but we could see a sport that we don't recognize if we get to a point where nobody can stop it. Nobody can implement any kind of rules. Nobody can do anything to help there be some structure and some integrity in the game that we all love.
I mean, I definitely agree. And as much as I'm a Big Ten fan and you're an SEC fan, you can't sit here and tell me on a cold November afternoon on like a Friday when you get to watch Virginia play like Syracuse and the ball, it's tied up and there's like 6 interceptions in the first half and like, like those crazy games that like you really don't care who wins. You're just watching good football. Like if we don't fix it and we keep going down the path that we're going down, it's gonna be the SEC versus the Big Ten, North versus South, however you want to add it up. But if we kind of put these stipulations on different schools, or not different schools, but just in college football and all of college athletics, it's gonna make it to where you get to keep watching Oklahoma State versus Kansas State in a 3-6 game or like a 42-45 game with 2 seconds left to go. Like that's the type of football that keeps college football because every game kind of has that weird feeling about it because your fans are rowdy. The tickets are cheap enough to where anybody could go, but they're expensive enough that it's not just like a trailer park in there. And like it just has that atmosphere. So the thing is like if you don't catch it now, I feel like right now in the next 5 years, college football is at this tipping point. Either it's going to tip and it's going to be really, really good, or it's going to tip and we're going to be having conversations like, dang, man, I really do miss the old football because this is nowhere. This is more like the NFL. And I feel like like, and I think you're going to understand what I say, and a few people that are listening to the show are going to understand what I say, but like, I feel like college football fans are like the rowdier version of NFL fans. Like, we all love college football. We all love football in general, but like, we have a few extra beers. We deal with our hangovers on Sundays, and we just want to yell at the rooftops if our, freshman quarterback comes in and he throws a touchdown pass.
Well, and I agree. I don't know. To me, the NFL they consider somebody that paints their face red and takes their shirt off and drinks a little bit too much. They consider them a super fan. To me, that's just another guy.
That's just a fan, baby.
That's just another hog. You know, there's nothing I love more than sitting at a bar on a Friday night watching some ACC football. One of my favorite games was NC State and Virginia. I was sitting in Baton Rouge on a Friday night watching the end of this game. And moments like that are special moments to me, not just as a Hog fan, just as a college football fan in general. And whenever you make a standard, because that's what we're doing here. We're trying to make a standard. This is what you can and cannot do. Whenever you set a standard, Virginia has the same opportunity. Now, they might not have the same ability. They have the same opportunity as Ohio State. They have the same opportunity as Alabama. Now, they might not do as much with it. We saw it for years. Everyone had the same opportunity, and there were teams, that were head and shoulders above everybody. But whenever you give everybody the same standard, then we can get back to a normal-ish college football that everybody loves, everybody respects. We just got to keep these Disney and Fox executives away from our sport. I mean, I cannot tell you how bad of an atrocity it is that Arkansas is hosting Notre Dame at 11 o'clock. I mean, what is going on here? You know what I'm saying?
What you're complaining about.
No. You should know exactly what I'm complaining about. This is a whole nother tangent. But why is Arkansas, okay, whether people want to admit it or not, Arkansas is a historical program. Okay, we've been around forever. We've won a national championship. It was in the 60s, but we've won one. We've won plenty of conference championships. We have done so much. Okay, this is the worst stretch in Arkansas football history. Notre Dame's playing us for the first time ever in Fayetteville, and we get to play them at 11 o'clock? The sun won't even be at the peak yet, and we're going to be kicking off in Fayetteville. That's an atrocity.
You want me to talk now? Because I'm about to burst.
Go ahead.
Burst your little bubble. So let me find a team that I can compare Arkansas to. You're gonna hate this. Virginia Tech.
We're more historical than Virginia Tech.
I mean, maybe, but what I'm saying is Virginia Tech and Arkansas were probably good around the same time, early 2000s. And then now they're just not that good anymore. Now, Arkansas has had years, don't get me wrong, but I think Virginia Tech's had years. Here's my thing. If Ohio State was going to Virginia Tech, do you think that should be a night game? Or would you look at it? No, you're a lie.
That would be electric.
You're a damn lie.
That is, I can't think of the name. That is Lane Stadium at night. That would be, and hey, you want me to tell you a secret? They did play that game, and it happened at nighttime.
Yeah, do you know what day it happened on?
I don't even know. Friday, probably.
It was a Thursday or a Friday. We didn't even get a Saturday slot.
The only reason why I remember it is that Braxton Miller spin move, and then he ran to the end zone.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was the year after I think they beat us.
Yeah, in Columbus, that was a crazy win. Go Hokies,
yeah, but
baby.
You get what I do get what you're saying. I totally hear you out. But on a national perspective,
Notre Dame is going into the teeth of an SEC team. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying okay. I'm not saying that we should be game of the week. There's 500 college football channels. Play it on freaking BET network. I don't care. Just put it on at nighttime. We are already at a disadvantage. Notre Dame has all these resources. Notre Dame's able to do all this stuff. Notre Dame, blah, 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 blah. Don't give us the disadvantage of playing at 11 o'clock. Please. We're going to have to start drinking on Friday.
I just can't believe you said Notre Dame was coming into the teeth of the South.
They are. This is Arkansas. This is as South as it gets.
Yeah, it is like the part of the South that's more South than Missouri, but like it ain't like the Hogs are like a
Look,
Texas.
we're way more southern than Texas. We're way more
No,
southern than
I'm not
Texas
talking about
A&M.
like the food you eat. I'm talking about how good the program is.
Look, look. I understand all that. But ESPN FPI ranked us as the 22nd best team in the country. You're going to give us a freaking noon game against Notre Dame? Come on.
Yeah, I want to pull that up and sit here and pick your brain on that because I don't.
Look,
Anyways,
I'm just saying that game's going to be on ABC. That's ESPN's affiliate. Come on.
yeah, and kind of like the whole reason you got on this whole tangent was because you do have too many big people getting involved in college football, and like I am with you. Like it's one of those things to where like, do I think the players deserve to get paid? 1,000%. They're the ones that's earning the most amount of money. But I don't want it to get to this point to where it's almost screwing up the kids' futures because all these people are promising them money or telling them money. Like if you're a quarterback, okay, here you go. Like if a wide receiver, 4-star wide receiver, gets offered $500,000 to go to Ohio State, or 1.5 million to go to Arkansas, the smartest decision for him to make would be go to Ohio
Come to
State.
Arkansas, buddy. Hey, KJ Hill, come to Arkansas, buddy.
Like that would be the smartest decision they could make. And like I just worry that there are kids that go out and accept these multi-million-dollar deals over them getting, developed by a better school, and they're genuinely destroying their future over it.
Yeah, and I do think you're right. I like how we refocused that. I was going on a little bit of a tear there.
You're good. I'll reel you back in. You'll have to reel me back in occasionally too when we start talking about Ohio State, but I got you, buddy.
But I do think you're right. I just think it's more of a thing of you're going to see these programs like Florida State, and they're going to sell out every year to try to get whatever they can, and it might not be the best for everybody. But we made a good step this week. We're just going to have to keep making good steps. And one good step after another good step, and we'll be in a great place with college football. And I'll keep ignoring the Sunday game. Pretty much that's all I got, though, Justin. Do you got anything before we close this up?
Man, I think that's it. I think I've said it a lot. I think there's a big like we're about to go through a tipping point in college football, and it's not going to be like all at once. It's going to be like for 3 or 4 years, it's going to be kind of going up a hill, and we're going to be hearing about things, and like maybe things are going to happen, maybe things won't, and then all of a sudden it's either going to keep climbing and get greater, or it's just going to crash, and it's going to pretty much send us back to the ice age in college football. If you think about it, like we're going to go to North and South and all these things. I just want people to genuinely appreciate college football. We've talked about it a lot. Mason, you talked about it when we talked about the SEC. Like, don't just watch the conference and sit there and meat ride the SEC just because they're your conference. Like, go out and watch MAC games on Tuesdays. Go and watch, the ACC or the Big 12 because in 4 years, you might not have those games. So appreciate them when they last and really just sit down and watch good football because you'll have people like I know he won't ever turn out to be anything in the NFL, but Deuce Vaughn at Kansas State 2 years ago was probably one of the funnest people to watch. He's a little 5'4" running back that was just like so shifty. Like he was just fun to watch. But if you were an SEC homer or if you were a Big Ten homer and you didn't watch football, like you would have never known who that guy is. All I'm saying is appreciate college football. It goes by faster than you think, and we could get to a point to where we look back and we're like, dang, I wish I would have appreciated it more. Other than that, like and subscribe. If you have anything you want us to do, leave a comment. If you have something you want us to talk about, leave a comment. I mean, me and Mason, we know kind of what we're going to talk about by the beginning of next week, but we will definitely prioritize comments that people leave us. If you want us to break down more into the ACC or if you want us to, and we're going to do that, we're going to do season predictions when we get a little closer, but if there's certain things that you hear and you're worried if we're going to talk about it or not, let us know. We'll definitely always talk about whatever you got or whatever you want us to talk about.
And that's very important. You said that. Please follow us on Instagram. We just made an Instagram, TikTok. Subscribe to our YouTube, and we're getting to a point in the college football off season here where we're about to get to the dead weeks. So any comments, any questions, any suggestions, any bold predictions, anything you got for us, we will take and we will go over it accordingly. Thank y'all so much for listening. This was Three Deep South. Have a great rest of y'all's week and have a happy Father's Day.